The National Institute of Credit Administration has welcomed President Bola Tinubu's plan to boost credit culture in Nigeria. The president, in his inauguration address last Monday, promised that his government would champion a credit culture to discourage corruption while strengthening effectiveness of various anti-corruption agencies. Reacting to Tinubu's vision, the National Institute of Credit Administration says the promise was something to cheer. The institute eulogized the president for what he described as his bold leadership example and quest to move the country away from cash-based economy into a credit system. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Institute of Credit Administration, Professor Onalo, joins me now live in the studio to discuss more on this. It's good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's good to have you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
When you talk about business credit and consumer credit for an economy like Nigeria, but give me a bit of your first word on that.
Well, business credit has to do with the capacity of businesses to borrow money for business growth, expansion, and startup. Basically, whatever it takes for a business organization to ask for credit line, it could be financial credit, it could be business-to-business credit, trade credit, whatever form it is, that situates itself essentially with institutions who are looking to grow their businesses through credit. And that is a phenomenon all over the world. And then, as opposed to the consumer credit, it's individual, more of individual, you and I and the other person having access to get into good things of life, house, cars, household appliances, real estate, etc., etc. But then the framework for that is it typically originates from business. Business has to be able to produce goods and services in such a competitive way that they'll be able to sell using credit to sell, and then consumers who are the essence of a nation will now have access to, based on their secured income. You must be a worker, you must be self-employed, as the case may be, for you to take credit on a consumer level basis, and then you pay against your fixed income at the end of the month.
So the manner of speaking, hands have to touch hands.
Exactly.
So you need the business credit on one hand, you need consumer credit on the other hand.
You produce to consume.
Yes. But again, it has to run on credit, which is what obtains elsewhere. But again, this is President Tinubu's economic agenda, speaking at the inaugural address about championing a credit culture to discourage corruption. Give me a bit of a link here.
Well, what he meant is that he's looking to shift the economy from cash-based to credit system. Right from the beginning of our independence, some years back, we have not really transit from cash system to credit. And when you compare the impact of cash system vis-a-vis the corruption, because corruption thrives much more within the physical presence of a cash. It's very easy for people to move out the money and pay for something or give out the money for something. And so that hasn't really helped. And I think in fighting corruption, you got to explore new opportunity, new avenue. How do we do this? And then when you compare that with the developed economies, you largely see that the credit system is what plays out. How do you, if you want to give somebody, you want to give money to someone, using credit system, it quickly captures your details. You can't escape it.
There's a footprint.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So any government that is looking in that direction to say, what can I do to fight corruption, to bring corruption to its zero level? Then do something about the use of money and how the money moves, from one hand to the other. And credit is what it is.
So technically, that helps the anti-corruption agencies themselves.
Absolutely.
Because again, it's so difficult to chase cash.
Oh yeah, you can't really, well, cash can easily move out so quickly and it accomplishes the purpose it is given.
Yeah, and disappears.
And it disappears. You can't account for it. But it's not so with credit. In credit, it carries your detail. For example, if you want to create a credit culture, economy, or society, you have to look at, currently we're using debit card, which is called ATM. Yes. And then if you go to ATM, of course, it captures your detail. And recently, Central Bank is doing a good job by saying that they are thinking of the possibility of fusing of fusing the national identity card into the ATM card. So then I was saying that, that's a bold step. And if that happened, super. Then we have to go a step further to creating an avenue where if you are living in this building and you maybe 2-3 years time, you move on to another building, to the next street, then there should be a mechanism that will capture such a movement. You know, once you get in there, maybe the landlord or the landlady, whoever is in charge of that, gives you a form to fill, and you have to fill that form, and that form must be linked into a certain mechanism.
Yes, into your previous data.
So it carries your data. So you can't even be in the habit of moving from one place to the other, if you like.
And indulging.
And then indulging. Because which is a huge threat to the credit. People take either consumer credit or business credit. You go to the address they gave you before, they are not there anymore. You know, so it becomes much easier.
So our addressing system has a very critical role to play in our credit system.
Maybe we need to go to the specialist in house construction, you know, the engineers, the architecture, as part of a requirement that if you have to build a house for business purposes, for personal purposes, and people are coming to rent that house, then there must be prescribed form that you have to fill up. Whether that form, the mechanism has to be traced.
And where does that form go? Well, does it have to go to a government agency to say?
I think it is better because it has to be funded. You know, just like the way of a national identity card.
Yes.
And then the central bank is in charge of BVN. You know, so national identity card, yes. National identity card can even champion that as well.
Yes.
You know, so we are very close there.
So you can rent one room.
You can't just move anyhow. You can, if you move, your whole information is in the public domain.
So that's also a security measure?
It's a security measure. So if you want to bring about transparency, you want to bring about good security for the people, you need to have credible system on ground that regulate the behavior of people. Before you plan to commit crime or go in for corruption,
you've got to think
think big, that my information is available. So where do I go?
Where do I live? Where do I work?
Everybody knows where.
Everything.
So we are very close there. In fact, my kudos to the central bank for thinking that way, that look, the present debit card, we will fuse into it. Of course, the BVN is already in there. And then NIM is already in there. The next thing for us to do to make Nigeria become a fertile place for a vibrant credit system to thrive is the addressing system.
They must know where you are at any point in time. Where can we
Even
find
security agencies will use that to track anybody at any time. It becomes much easy.
Where was his last?
Yes. So it's super. You know, when we came on board the institute, these are the issues that we have to think beyond the traditional credit management. How do we manage credit effectively if these structures are not on ground?
Interesting. Over the last years and decades, I've tracked the Institute of Credit Administration. But if we have an idea of a percentage of Nigerians who have access to credit, and its credit is essential for economic growth, that's without gainsaying. But we have some numbers.
Well, I think it's difficult. I was on this program some time ago, and I did say that the information we got it could be sectorial. You know, the central bank saying that the number of organizations, not even individual, you know, for example, SMEs in particular that have access to credit is quite insignificant compared to the large number of SMEs that we have. I think we are still in an unsettled economy where mechanism hasn't actually been put in place. I did emphasize that we need to have statistics from institutions like Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, how many of your members have access to credit. And then beside the central bank, of course, who's the regulator of credit and move from banks to the real
and money flow.
And money flow and all that. Yes, we can rely on that. And then National Bureau of Statistics can also move in. For us at the National Institute of Credit, we are waiting for some of these structures to be in place. We are really talking with them because we will not have information to give to the public if we don't have organized private sector who will have a comprehensive record of their members' activities, exposures to the banks or to ancillary institutions that provide credit. Not only financial credit, we also need to talk about the business-to-business credit. You know, that people buy the computers, the producers of the computers, all over the world. They're not selling the computers on cash and carry. It's produced in large quantity and keep producing 24 hours and then giving them to their distributors to distribute them around the world using credit as a vehicle.
Yes.
So
that's the international payment system.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the way we want to go, and that's
so that you think that raises the level of productivity nationally.
Yeah, of course, because when you keep your machine rolling, you are not going to lay off employees because you trust that you have created a global market, national market, global market. So you keep producing, and don't forget you are not the only competitor.
So whatever we're doing, even locally, we're not helping ourselves with cash system.
Exactly, we are not.
Because that doesn't enhance consumption, really. Because I've got to think first of how much cash do I have before I think of a purchase.
That's it.
But if there's credit, I just go binging.
Yeah, that's it. Your
institute was the first to write a welcome on board letter to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What was in that letter? Tell me.
Well, the letter, basically talk about the pronouncement he has made before he was sworn in.
Oh, okay.
And he kept talking about, if I become the president of the country, I am going to change the economy outlook. And he kept talking about that.
And that sounds like music to your ears at the institute.
Yes, consumer credit. And we say, hang on, this guy seems to have an idea of what we are talking about. That's a great thing. So we wait. And we waited until he was sworn in.
Until he won and so
not only that, part of his speech, he also captured that.
touched on credit.
He touched on credit. And we said, well, I think the institute is good to go. We have to support the government. We have to explain what consumer credit is all about. And we took time in our love letter to him. And we said, this is the basis of consumer credit. This is what you are talking about. And we believe that you are ready to go.
Are there specific points that you would want the new president's regime to touch on as soon as it has a cabinet in place, the finance minister, the whole structure that could get things moving as an administration?
I think they need to think differently. Nigeria has come a long way as a sovereign state. They need to think differently. And that's where I'm bothered. We don't need to recycle the whole thing again. We need to reinvent. We need to look at new direction, like the issue of credit. I can't speak beyond that. The credit holds, credit economy hold the ass. If you introduce credit economy, you're going to create more jobs. The job which he promised in the body of his speech is achievable even more than that. You need to bring back SMEs to contribute to the GDP. Most SMEs, if not 90% SMEs, do not have access to credit in Nigeria. And then you can see the trigger as well of the little debate, argument about the subsidy removal or whatever. The impact it already had on an African country, some African country. So if we have a credible credit system, it creates jobs, it creates wealth, you can reduce tax burden on companies because they have to produce, to sell, create jobs, employ more people. And I think the team, they need to think differently. They need to think credit system, and then Nigeria will be good for it.
When a team is in place and they get the hit ground running, I think we're going to bring you back to have a further conversation. We'll begin to see more clarity on what. But for coming here on the Monday morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Nice seeing you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.